billionaire's shocking discovery. Cameras reveal the amazing acts of his son's new maid. Tom Hargrove stared blankly at the flickering screens in his lavish office, the faint hum of the room filling the void left by his absent son. He had secured a rare kind of success, an architect revered in upscale circles, a father in the Silver Oaks neighborhood, proud owner of a home filled with all the trappings of success. Still, inside him churned a storm of doubts. The footage played on repeat. A new maid named Maria fostering a connection with his college-age son, Alex, while he remained nowhere to be found in the picture. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, the messages from clients and staff starting to blur into overwhelming noise. Images of Maria patiently sitting with Alex filled the screens. Each frame captured her gentle encouragement, as if she held the key to his son's ambitions that Tom had never been able to unlock. But didn't he, a successful architect, deserve admiration? Didn't his relentless working hours ensure a brighter future for Alex? The slow realization that he now had competition in an unexpected guise struck him hard. Maria was doing what he failed at profoundly. Tom couldn't ignore the weight of his growing unease. Striving for success had etched a disconnect between him and Alex, evident in the way his son avoided him at home. Each late evening in the office, every missed chance to discuss Alex's aspirations, only hardened the chasm. And now, this outsider, someone who had once seemed irrelevant, was not only teaching his son how to study, but also revealing sides of Alex that he desperately wanted to know. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as admiration morphed into realization, doubts began to creep in. The moment a prized heirloom, a family artifact with generational importance, went missing, the carefully constructed walls of his perceived perfect life began to crumble. Whispers in the neighborhood struck chords of indignation. Could Maria be involved? Suddenly he found himself questioning his first reaction. Did he suspect her largely because of her background? Guilt washed over him, messy and suffocating. He felt the weight of judgment and privilege bearing down on him. Success came at a cost. Would he allow social prejudices to overshadow the remarkable influence Maria had on Alex? He could almost hear the collective whispers of the community echoing in their judgment, labeling him naive or worse, that he had wronged an employee. The thought twisted within him, a psychological tussle, a battle of protecting his image or acknowledging the truth unfolding in front of his eyes. As the tension mounted, Tom sensed the ground beneath him shifting. The choice loomed where all eyes would be on him. Would he remain the still-anchored billionaire, blind to the truths of those struggling around him? Or could he gather the strength to confront his biases, affirming the emotional connection he had lost with his son? Each question escalated the internal storm, and the room seemed to close in as he faced his own discomfort with clarity. He realized the answer lay not just in discovering the truth behind the heirloom's disappearance, but also in discovering the shadows of understanding lurking in his own heart. The fog of privilege and success nestled around him like quicksand, and he stood on the edge of a precipice, a decision that would carve a new path in their lives forever. In the quiet aftermath, Tom felt the creeping tendrils of self-doubt tightening around him like a vice. The screens flickered, casting an unflinching light on the fractures in his life. He could picture Alex's youthful enthusiasm, a stark contrast to his own weighed-down spirit. In a surge of urgency, he pushed back from the desk, the leather chair rolling slightly. Resolute, he decided he needed to confront this situation head-on. As the door swung open, the afternoon sun spilled into the room, splashing warmth across the cold, sterile environment that had long embraced him. He almost turned back, cold feet tinging his resolve with hesitation, but the sight of the footage still playing in his mind anchored him. Each sneak peek into Alex's growth with Maria provided a painful reminder that he was not merely an observer. He was a participant in this complex, uncharted dance of parental love and professional ambition. Descending the staircase, he caught a glimpse of Alex, seated at the dining table, bent over his studies, with Maria beside him. The relaxed way they interacted radiated warmth that felt both foreign and appealing. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over him. Pride mingled with jealousy and fear. As he approached, their laughter echoed like a siren song, luring him closer yet also solidifying his role as an outsider. "Tom," Maria said, her voice gentle yet firm, pulling him from his brooding thoughts. "We were just working on a project for his architecture class. He's really coming into his own." The pride in her voice struck him with an unexpected force. "Can I join?" he found himself asking, a surprising earnestness threading through his words. The request felt as though he was reaching for a lifeline, though the dread of revealing himself lurked underneath. Alex's head snapped up, surprise flashing in his eyes before it was quickly replaced by uncertainty. Sure, Dad." They made room for him, and as he settled into the chair, the dynamic subtly shifted. He observed the playful exchanges, the easy rapport between them, while also trying to grasp the complex ideas Alex was sharing. Frustration barreled alongside admiration as thoughts ricocheted in his mind. This was what he had wanted, yet it hadn't come from him. The lesson spiraled into a broader discussion of architecture and design, the conversation flowing more freely as the hours slipped by. Tom felt himself drawn in, understanding the world his son was stepping into, a landscape rich with creativity and potential. And yet, the nagging doubt returned. Would a rift form if Maria continued to play such a pivotal role? When the evening light cascaded through the window, Alex excused himself on the pretext of needing a break, leaving Tom with Maria. They exchanged pensive glances, the silence heavy with unspoken tension. It was time, Tom realized, to confront the underlying issues. His impulsive assumptions about Maria, his neglect because of ambition, and the lingering feelings that had driven a wedge between him and his son. "Maria," he began cautiously, "I need to address something." But before he could continue, he caught her expression. There was strength and determination in her gaze, but also something fleeting. Fear or confusion. It whipped through him, igniting curiosity about her past, her own dreams forged in the fires of struggle. "Before you say anything," she interrupted, "there's something you should know about Alex and me." The imperative nature of her words set off a cascade of questions. He leaned forward, feeling the gravity of their situation descend even further. Tom beckoned tension, ready to unravel layers of truth that could shift the very foundation of their lives. The moment carried with it an exhilarating promise of clarity, wrapped in uncertainty. What could she reveal that would reshape his understanding of everything? This was no ordinary conversation. It was the crux of their shared existence, and in its balance, danced revelations that could illuminate their way forward or further entangle them in shadows. Tom held his breath, the air thick with anticipation as he leaned closer to Maria. Her brow furrowed slightly, as if wading through a sea of uncertain memories before deciding to plunge in. He recognized the struggle reflected in her eyes, the tension between self-protection and the necessity of honesty. Would he be ready for what she was about to say? "Alex and I share more than just school projects," she began, her voice steady, yet carrying a weight that made every syllable resonate in the air between them. "He's been coming to me for guidance. Not just for academics, Tom, but for life." The word struck him like a physical blow, sending shockwaves of unease through his already fraught mind. While part of him felt grateful that Alex had someone to lean on, another part recoiled at the thought of being displaced. His mind whirled. Had he truly been absent enough to let another person fill the void he should have occupied? "What do you mean?" Tom forced out, his voice strained. "In what way does he need guidance?" He's struggling with feelings he doesn't fully understand. His future, his relationships, the weight of expectations, Maria explained, her gaze unwavering, a mixture of empathy and concern flaring in her eyes. It's not just about grades anymore. He's searching for something deeper. Tom nodded, grappling with the reality Maria presented. Would he have truly been able to provide that depth? The sheer magnitude of Alex's emotional needs startled him, igniting an internal debate about the repercussions of his relentless pursuit for success. Had he robbed his son of the chance to confront his own challenges, thinning the bond they shared? "I didn't realize," he began. But Maria pressed on, her voice commanding his attention. "He's made progress, but he feels conflicted, caught between his ambitions and the fear of disappointing you." Each word reverberated within him, cutting through his defenses. He had often thought about being a father, but reality painted a far more complex picture that he hadn't anticipated. Why didn't he come to me? The question tumbled from his lips, reflective of his anguish. Why turn to you? Maria's expression softened, her honesty dissolving walls he hadn't even known he'd built. He fears that you're too invested in your career to care about his emotional struggles. When you're consumed by work, it drowns out everything else, including your family. He loves you, Tom, but he's afraid of being a burden. Her words ignited a flicker of self-awareness within him. How many moments had he sacrificed for professional gain? He could see the dimmest of shadows on Alex's face clearing as he embraced the art that had once brought him joy. Had he allowed that passion to go unheard, sacrificing it to the relentless grind? Time felt suspended as Tom processed the implications. He could feel his resolve strengthening, the desire to shift the tides and reclaim the connection he had taken for granted. "What can I do?" he asked, the urgency coursing through him necessary and palpable. "There's much to unravel, Tom." Maria's voice took on a hesitant yet hopeful tone. "But the first step is yours. Be present, not just as his father, but as a guide. Start by listening, really listening, not just to the words, but to what's beneath them." As she spoke, the sunlight outside deepened, reflecting the shift within Tom. He was flooded with a rush of determination. He would not allow himself to be cast aside any longer. Seeking clarity transformed into a profound desire to take active steps toward redemption. "I want to understand him, truly," he declared, a small flame of commitment igniting in his chest. "And if he needs me to help navigate his feelings, then I will." Maria's nod seemed to carry the weight of their situation, as it unfurled before them like a road leading toward shared discovery. But as he opened his mouth to express further thoughts, the sound of Alex's footsteps echoed from the hallway. An unexpected pang of fear pierced through his burgeoning resolve. What if the conversation ahead shattered their tentative connection? What if revealing his desire for honesty and vulnerability drove them apart instead? The moment of truth approached, and Tom felt his heart quicken as he wondered whether he was truly ready to face what lay ahead. Would he step into the light of understanding, or slip into the shadows of his own making? As the door creaked open, that uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Tom narrowed his gaze on the doorway, his instincts in overdrive. The door opened further, and there stood Alex, looking both youthful and burdened, a blend of hopefulness and apprehension reflected in his expression. Tom's heart raced, a mix of paternal instinct and self-doubt washing over him. "Dad?" Alex said, breaking the silence with a tentative voice. The sound felt like a trigger, a reminder of the warmth they once shared, one that had slowly grown cold. "Hey, Alex," Tom managed, forcing himself to maintain eye contact. He could feel the weight of Maria's words lingering between them, urging him to breach the gap. Alex shifted from foot to foot, waiting. The silence stretched as Tom struggled to find words rich enough to express the urgency of what had been revealed. What if he fumbled this? What if his attempt at honesty pulled them apart instead of bringing them together? "Can we talk?" Tom finally asked. Sure. Alex shrugged, but his body language screamed discomfort. He moved to the edge of the room, as if a wall had formed between them despite the physical proximity. Tom took a step forward, intent on closing the distance. I've been thinking a lot about what's been going on between us. I can see you've been dealing with a lot. Like how busy you are with work, Alex shot back defensively. The jab stung, but Tom welcomed it. It forced him to confront the truth head-on. You're right. I've been consumed by my job. I've focused so much on success, I didn't realize how it impacted you. Alex's eyes flickered with confusion and slight resentment. So what? You're just gonna realize it now? White-knuckling his resolve, Tom felt a wave of panic, but he pressed onward. No, it's not just a realization. I want to understand you better, really. I want you to know I'm here for you, no matter what. Is that supposed to fix things? Just because you want it? Instinctively, Tom took a breath, recognizing the gravity of this moment. It's a start, he replied, choosing each word with care. Things aren't going to magically change overnight, but I want to help you figure them out. You don't have to face these feelings alone. I haven't given you that freedom, and for that, I'm sorry. Silence enveloped them like an unseen shroud. Tom could see emotions playing across Alex's features, a blend of skepticism and unease. What do you really know about what I'm feeling? Alex challenged, his voice low but firm. Tom hesitated. You're still figuring out who you want to be, which is tougher than any test or project. You feel pressure from your friends, school, and me, but you don't have to carry it all by yourself. Alex looked away, his expression tumultuous, appearing somewhere between vulnerability and the need to remain guarded. It's easy to say. It's harder to believe. The honesty in his voice sent a ripple through Tom. How long had they both skirted around their reality, caught in a web of unspoken expectations? Maria's earlier encouragement echoed in his mind, to listen beyond just the words. I want to help you carry that burden, Tom said gently, feeling a newfound clarity pierce through his anxiety. Tell me what you're really struggling with. I won't interrupt or judge. Just share it with me. Alex locked eyes with him, the battle of emotions visible. Would he take the leap into vulnerability? The thought both terrified and exhilarated Tom. For a moment, the air shimmered with the possibility of connection, a bridge built from trust and raw honesty. Then, like a switch flipping, Alex turned. I don't think I can, Dad. Not right now. A heavy silence filled the room. The moment, the vulnerability, wasn't just Alex withholding. It felt reciprocal. Tom felt the echo of his own concealed struggles creeping back in. I understand, Tom replied quietly, wrestling with a mixture of disappointment and determination. But I hope one day you can. As Alex stepped back, leaving the doorway wide open, Tom was left with more questions than answers. The journey ahead was not a smooth path, but he was resolved to walk it with Alex, even if the road was long and twisted. Yet against the backdrop of his firm commitment, doubt gnawed at him. Had he said enough to encourage honesty, or would he forever remain a mere shadow in Alex's life? As he stood there, watching the spot where his son had disappeared, Tom wondered if the conversation had changed anything at all. Echoing through his mind, a hint of dread crept in. The real battle for connection was just beginning, and he wasn't sure he had the strength to fight it. Tom stared at the spot where his son had just stood, the air thick with unresolved tension. He exhaled slowly, each breath punctuated by unvoiced questions swirling in his mind. Frustration mingled with regret as he replayed the conversation. What had he said that might have shifted the landscape of their relationship? He felt like a sailor lost at sea, without a compass to steer toward understanding. Determined to confront his feelings, Tom walked out of the house and plunged into the expansive solitude of his backyard. The evening sun cast long shadows that danced across the grass. He needed to regain his focus, pressure bubbling beneath his surface, demanding an outlet. At that moment, clarity emerged from the chaos. He had to address the harsh truths about his life, the relentless pursuit of success that had insulated him from meaningful connections. Tom's gaze riveted on the horizon, the fleeting colors of dusk serving as a metaphor for the fragility of time. How many more moments would he let slip by without engaging with his son? It was as if the gravity of his role as a father was lost in the whirlwind of career aspirations. He reached for his phone, hesitated, then put it down. Leaning against a robust elm tree, he was enveloped by its steadfastness, an image of reliability he longed to embody himself. Then, inspiration struck. Tom dashed to his workshop, where remnants of his early design work lay scattered. The walls were lined with blueprints from projects of past triumphs, many reminding him of his initial dreams before the corporate world became a labyrinth of profit margins and bottom lines. He grabbed a sketch pad and began to draw, letting his thoughts spill out onto the page. Articulating his vision of a community-focused venture, a space where families could connect over shared experiences, seemed like a crucial first step. With each line that he sketched, Tom felt a burgeoning fire within him. His mind raced through lists of local organizations and community centers that could align with his idea. Here was something tangible, something he could pursue that married his professional acumen with his desire to foster relationships, not just with Alex, but with others in the community too. The thought electrified him. It was time to become proactive instead of reactive, to cultivate not just business successes but personal ones too. Yet a cloud of apprehension still hovered over his ambition. He couldn't bypass the reality that Alex might not respond to these changes, and the fear that he had wandered too far down his own path loomed large. What if this initiative faltered, echoing his past failures? A knot twisted in his stomach at the thought of disappointing his son yet again. He was still grappling with the shadows of doubt, unsure whether he had the capability to change the narrative. But this wasn't about control or outcomes. It was about reclamation. Reclaiming his relationship with Alex meant extending an invitation for dialogue, not merely using his initiative as a shield. This was an opportunity to reach out, to offer a bridge back to the warmth they had both once shared, the trust that had eroded. Could this project be a way to include Alex? Would it even resonate with him? Or would it serve as further evidence of Tom's pushy paternalism? As night descended, Tom felt resolve crystallize within him. He had to reach out to Alex, not just about work or school, but about creating a shared venture born from vulnerability. He could model the ambition to connect where they both had once strayed and demonstrate that facing one's challenges together could empower rather than isolate. With a resolve that sharpened like a knife, Tom picked up his phone, ready to bridge the gap once more. Yet amidst the anticipation, one nagging question clung heavily. How could he convince Alex that they were on this journey together, instead of merely acting as a benefactor offering solutions to problems that weren't his to fix? Before he could hit call, a sudden anxious thought halted him. What if pursuing this path widened the chasm further instead of closing it? The moment of truth loomed, demanding a single choice, to open up or to retreat. A crossroads buried deep within the complexities of fatherhood, with the entire future at stake. Tom paced his workshop with a growing sense of urgency. The sketch pad sprawled open on his desk, and while the initial flicker of inspiration had kindled a fire within, self-doubt was creeping in like darkness at dusk. He had resolved to connect with Alex, to offer an opportunity to bridge their gaps. But the enormity of the words he needed to say loomed like an insurmountable mountain ahead. His mind's eye replayed the strained moments they had shared, and the chasm felt wider than ever. What if Alex viewed his father's efforts as insincere? What if he misinterpreted the project as another layer of pressure rather than a genuine attempt to reconnect? Each question weighed heavily, and Tom felt the pangs of anxiety settle deep in his gut. He needed to prepare. Clarity would come, he assured himself. Tom rummaged through various papers strewn around, looking for inspiration, something solid to anchor his thoughts. As he rifled through drawings and unfinished designs, he unearthed a faded photograph of himself with Alex from years past. They were at a local park, laughter frozen in time, both careless and joyful in shared innocence. The photograph jolted him, igniting a memory of playfulness and trust. If only he could capture a semblance of that moment in conversation. Taking a deep breath, Tom set the photo down and grabbed his sketchpad again. His fingers moved instinctively, drawing not just lines, but the feelings he had kept buried. He envisioned a place where they could rebuild their relationship. A cafe, perhaps, where families could share stories and meals, where he and Alex could engage in the simple act of bonding over food, conversation, and collaboration. He understood that this project should extend beyond the confines of what he wanted. It had to become something Alex could see himself in. With newfound determination, he drafted a proposal, transforming vague notions into structured ideas. He articulated the mission, the potential impact, and his desire for Alex's input. This could be a space that celebrated community, creativity, and connection. Not just a business plan, but a living concept, born from their experiences. As he constructed his vision, Tom grasped that vulnerability held power. He recalled the many times he had shielded himself with success, using it as a barrier against disappointment. But here lay an opportunity to show Alex not only his ambition, but his willingness to be authentic. Perhaps it was time to remove the mask of the corporate facade and expose the real Tom, the father who longed to reunite, who had faced struggles and uncertainties. The clock ticked. The moment was passing. He opened his phone again, hesitated, then began typing a message to Alex. The screen blinked back at him as he poured out his hopes and fears. "Can we talk? I want to share an idea. I'd love to have your thoughts on something special." Could this message initiate the bridge he so desperately sought? The message felt like a leap into the unknown. His finger hovered over the send button, mirroring the turmoil swirling inside him. What if Alex dismissed it outright? What if he saw through Tom's facade? Tom took a deep breath, grappling with the fear that gripped him. Yet as he thought of the laughter in that photograph, he found the courage to navigate this turbulent terrain. He pressed send, heart racing. The weight lifted slightly, but uncertainty still hung in the air. Would it even create the spark he was longing for, or would it fizzle into silence like their past conversations? As he waited with bated breath for a response, hope flickered cautiously in his chest. Yet another barrier lay ahead. Would Alex see the sincerity behind his proposal? Or would the distance between them warp his intentions? In that moment, a new feeling rose. Anticipation. The time for confrontation had arrived. Whatever Alex's response held, Tom knew this would be the start of facing the deeper truths to reclaim both himself and his relationship with his son. What lay ahead went beyond just a simple connection. It was a reckoning. The realization settled heavily as he prepared for the possibility that his journey would lead him to face not only his son's reactions, but perhaps the buried truths of his own past decisions as well. The stillness of the workshop was punctured by the gentle chime of Tom's phone. His breath caught as he glanced at the notification, an unexpected pulse of adrenaline rushing through him. It was a reply from Alex. Before he had a chance to process it, Tom opened the message, his eyes racing to decipher the words. Each syllable could either solidify their fragile connection or fracture it further. "Can we meet? I have questions." Questions. The term hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. Tom's heart raced. This was not a dismissive response. It indicated curiosity, perhaps even willingness to engage. But it also hinted at a myriad of unresolved issues, unspoken thoughts swirling beneath the surface. He felt a knot tightening in his chest, recognizing that the conversation could expose deeper rifts than the proposal itself. After a moment's hesitation, Tom responded, suggesting a time at the cafe he had envisioned for their project. As he typed, he contemplated the future. This meeting was not just about the cafe concept. It was about him and Alex uncovering the layers that had built up over the years of miscommunication and silence. Each sentence he composed required thought. He needed to convey openness without inundating Alex with burdensome expectations. His mind drifted back to moments of Alex's youth, memories of his son's laughter piercing through barriers of their estrangement. Yet he feared those memories were now cloaked in shadows of doubt and regret. Would Alex reflect on their past fondly, or would the prevailing bitterness overshadow any remnants of affection? The minutes felt like hours as he waited for Alex's arrival, the air in the cafe thick with anticipation. Tom watched patrons sipping their drinks, conversing easily, and he couldn't help but envy them. They were unencumbered by years of tension. They were simply enjoying life. A stark contrast to his own situation brewed within him, pushing Tom to question. Why was it so difficult to articulate what mattered most? When Alex finally walked in, a wave of tension rolled over Tom. He loved the way his son carried himself, as though the world shifted along with his every step. But there was also a guardedness in Alex's demeanor, the way he scanned the cafe as if searching for a reason to retreat. As their eyes met, a momentary spark ignited, but it quickly faded into an uneasy silence that dangerously tethered them both to doubt. "Hey," Alex said, sliding into the seat opposite him. The word hung heavily between them, loaded with years of unspoken grievances. "Thanks for coming," Tom replied, trying to maintain a tone of warmth, despite the chill of apprehension swirling around them. "I got your message. What's this idea?" Alex leaned back, arms crossed, an unconscious shield against the vulnerability of the moment. Tom took a breath, steadied himself. "I want to create something meaningful, a space where people can connect, like we used to." He gestured towards the bustle of the cafe, as if the energy of their surroundings could lend weight to his words. "I thought it could be a way for us to work together, to share something." "What? You mean a business?" Alex interjected, skepticism lacing his tone. "Is this just another distraction for you?" Pain shot through Tom as he registered the words. His instinct was to defend himself, but he realized he needed to confront this head-on. No more hiding behind elaborate plans. "No, it's more than that. I thought if we could build something together, it would allow us both to learn from each other, to understand, to heal." Alex's expression remained unreadable, a mask concealing the turmoil beneath. Tom recognized the weight of his son's skepticism, the product of years of disappointment he had never fully acknowledged until now. The conversation wove through delicate territory. Past grievances surfaced, misunderstood intentions were laid bare. Each exchange forced Tom to relinquish the fortified walls he'd built over the years. He knew he couldn't sidestep these issues, hoping they would fade away. Vulnerability became his ally, but it was a fragile alliance at best. As they spoke, Tom felt a flicker of hope ignite deep within him. With each revelation, he could see cracks forming in Alex's indifference, but fear and doubt shadowed every inch of progress. Would it be enough to spark genuine connection, or were they both too damaged to navigate this unforgiving territory? Suddenly, Alex paused, staring at Tom with intensity. "Why do you think this will change anything?" That question crystallized the moment. It echoed through the cafe's ambiance. Tom grappled with his response, understanding this inquiry transcended the cafe idea, delving into the very essence of fatherhood and forgiveness. The answer was not merely about building a business. It was about reconstructing their lives, their relationship. "I'm not sure," Tom admitted, and in that admission lay the heart of his journey. "I just know that it has to start here." The air, once static, began to crackle with tension, hinting at the monumental revelations that lay before them. Each word could lead to a rebirth or a final fracture. As they continued to navigate this treacherous territory, Tom knew that the true test would not be the cafe or the intention behind it. It would be whether he could finally face not just Alex's pain, but his own. With resolve building within him, he prepared to confront the deeper truths, both for himself and for the relationship he shared with his son. What truths remained buried and unexamined? Would unraveling them lead to redemption or further discord? The question hung in the air, heavy with immediate implications. Tom felt the moment stretch, every second brimming with tension and possibility. Behind Alex's steely gaze lay unanticipated depths of vulnerability. "Why do you think this will change anything?" echoed in Tom's mind, each repetition amplifying the challenge. He had to think beyond the surface. Why would this cafe, this shared aspiration, mend the fissures cracked by years of silence? In that crowded cafe, he could almost feel the weight of their history press against him. It was suffocating yet energizing, a reminder that something had to give. "This isn't just about the cafe, Alex," Tom finally replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "It's about us, about rebuilding trust. The cafe is just a facade, a way to bring us to the table. But underneath, it's about the years we lost, the misunderstandings we never addressed." He met Alex's gaze, needing to pierce through the barriers built over time. Alex's shoulders tensed as Tom leaned in slightly, an invitation to listen, to connect instead of retreat. He had to ground his words in truth, even if they were unremarkable. "I want to rebuild what we lost. This needs to be a start, not a distraction." Tom noticed Alex's expression flicker, a moment of confusion masked under skepticism. Tom's heart soared momentarily. Was he reaching his son? Or was it just a fleeting notion? He pressed on, determined to create space for dialogue. "I think I've spent too long focusing on my life, my choices, without really considering how they affected you, how I failed you as a father," Tom confessed, raw honesty spilling forth. "I've avoided confronting that pain because I didn't know how." The silence after his admission felt monumental, charged with emotion. Tom noted a shift in Alex, the way his posture softened slightly, as if contemplating the weight of Tom's words. "This is hard for me, too," Alex finally said, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. "It's not easy to just forget all of it." He was right. Tom didn't expect forgiveness or an immediate reconciliation. But, amid the bittersweet quality of their exchange, he realized that dialogue, real conversation, was the only way forward. "I know it's hard, but when we ignore the past, it lingers, festers. We need to talk. We need to confront it." The scowl that had etched itself on Alex's face began to ebb. "Okay," he said cautiously. "But what if it doesn't work? What if it leads to more pain?" Tom could feel the gravity of that question, and it sobered him. Each vulnerability they shared was layered with uncertainty, but they had to take the leap. It might, but it could also lead to healing, understanding. The only way to know is to try. With their conversation shifting, Tom began to outline their vision for the cafe in earnest, infusing it with personal meaning. Ideas began to flow as they discussed how the cafe could serve as a community space for families, a reflection of their own complicated relationship. The initial trepidation faded slightly, replaced by a tentative excitement. Even as they sketched their ideas, the larger battle within loomed in the background. Every joint effort, every moment of collaboration felt like an act of rebellion against the past. Alex began to share risks he could envision for the cafe, showing willingness to engage in their budding partnership. Tom felt himself warming to the idea of a shared endeavor, but a storm brewed within. What if the act of creating something beautiful together precipitated a deeper fallout when they unearthed untouched memories? As they cast visions, a new fear settled in. What if they went too far? Could each revelation be the match that ignited dormant tensions? Tom's resolve tested against possible outcomes. He knew he was stepping into uncharted territory, one where all boundaries could blur. In that critical junction, as Alex offered an especially promising suggestion, Tom thought about the fragile thread of connection they were attempting to weave. It could fray at any moment, and yet there lay something earnest between them, driving him forward. But would it be enough to sustain them through the inevitable storms they would face? As the cafe conversation pulled them closer, Tom gripped a fresh realization. They were not merely building a business. They engaged in the dangerous work of reversing years of hurt and misunderstanding. With new intentions set in motion, they stood at a threshold. What revelations would uncover deeper truths about themselves and each other that they had yet to confront? The clock ticked softly in the background, counting down the seconds of their fragile connection. Tom braced for whatever lay ahead, aware that true reconciliation often hides in the challenge of facing one's own shadows. As he considered this delicate path unfolding before them, one thought reverberated. Was he truly prepared for what awaited on the other side? The following days unfolded in a haze of tentative optimism, interspersed with threads of anxiety that tugged at Tom's resolve. As they meticulously planned the cafe's layout, the joyous energy of brainstorming often gave way to deeper conversations. Each discussion unearthed layers of their past, simultaneously building a fragile structure of hope and revisiting emotional blueprints laden with unresolved conflicts. Tom found himself increasingly aware of shifting dynamics in his relationship with Alex. Each suggestion from his son carried the weight of their shared history. It was as if every creative spark ignited both excitement and a haunting reminder of their estrangement. Was this merely a facade of togetherness they were constructing, or an authentic attempt at rediscovery? He recognized himself cringing at unfamiliar notions, suppressing the instinct to dismiss them outright. He wanted to encourage Alex, to allow him the space to contribute without the looming shadow of their past resentment. Yet, it was unquestionable. Each idea felt like a thread leading to points of potential friction, as if one wrong turn could unravel everything they had begun to knit together. During one particularly charged afternoon, as they discussed the theme of their cafe, Tom's internal conflict crystallized. "What if we made the whole place feel like home?" Alex suggested, enthusiasm painting his lips. "You know, a place where families feel welcome, where we can share stories." The idea resonated briefly, igniting a flicker of warmth in Tom's chest before it was cloaked in doubt. Home, he mused, allowing his mind to wander through the corridors of their childhood. The ambiance wasn't merely about decor. It was a reminder of everything that had been neglected. What would it mean to fill a space with the echoes of laughter that had long since faded? "Is that what we are trying to find again?" Tom asked, his voice quieter than he intended. "A sense of home?" Alex's gaze faltered for a moment, uncertainty shadowing his face. "I think it is. But do we even know what that looks like anymore?" The question pierced through Tom like an arrow. He had to confront that very idea, battling more than just professional aspirations. It demanded he reevaluate the essence of fatherhood and the bonds that once had flourished in the light of everyday life. "I think we need to consider what we can build that honors the past while forging forward," he replied, trying to unfurl the complexity of emotion embedded within the mere notion of a cafe. Later that evening, Tom sat alone, poring over the notes they had compiled that day. As he scanned the scribbled suggestions and ideas, the weight of unfulfilled expectations pressed heavily on his chest. What if their efforts to reignite the bond would lead to deeper disillusionment? What if the prospect of constructing something new laid bare the fractures that had long been covered? He decided, perhaps it was time to face the fallout that would inevitably arise from this venture, not to shy away from the inevitable confrontation of past pain. Growth seldom emerged without discomfort. Maybe the cafe was more than just a place to serve coffee, but a battleground for reconciliation. A clink from his phone disrupted his thoughts, drawing his attention back to the present. A message illuminated the screen, pulling him away from his spiral inward. It was a text from Alex. "We should do this together, even if it hurts. We need to face this." Tom's heart raced. Was his son ready for this level of collaboration, emotional honesty? The decision felt momentous, yet fragile, charged with importance. He couldn't abandon this chance, the vulnerable invitation Alex offered. Fear and exhilaration churned in Tom's stomach. Could moving forward simultaneously mean investing in their emotional heritage and unveiling long-held grievances that could mar their healing? This very attempt at jointly embracing the past felt precarious, but it was an avenue they had to navigate together. As he drafted a response, a revelation dawned. This was their moment to reflect on their trajectories, every misstep and miscommunication, and turn it into an opportunity for honesty. They were standing at the metaphorical doorstep of their new venture, and the potential for transformation hovered just beyond. What awaited them as they stepped into the vulnerability of that shared space? Would their risks lead to healing or further isolation? As Tom hit send, he felt the weight of choice settle around him. It was time to embrace the messiness of familial bonds in full view, yet a thorn lodged itself deep in his psyche. What if every revelation carved deeper divides instead of bridging them? Tom steeled himself as he faced the impending truth, knowing it would soon surface in their journey. And beneath it all lay an irrefutable question. Was he truly willing to confront the shadows, no matter what they revealed? As Tom entered the cafe they had envisioned, a surge of anticipation pulsed through him. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of ideas exchanged and plans drafted, an exhilarating mixture of excitement and fear. He could picture the cozy chairs, warm ambiance, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air. It was a visual manifestation of all they hoped to achieve together. Yet, as he prepared for their next meeting, Tom was acutely aware that this venture transcended mere business. It was a crucial step toward mending his fractured relationship with Alex. He couldn't ignore the subtle tension that had woven its way into their partnership. While each meeting had brought flashes of collaboration, deep-rooted issues simmered beneath the surface, waiting to be acknowledged. What if this cafe, meant to be a refuge of shared experiences, instead became a stage for their unresolved conflicts? Tom leaned heavily on the thought that opening up was a risk worth taking, especially if it meant rebuilding their bond. As Alex arrived, he exuded a palpable energy, and Tom felt his chest tighten. They exchanged hopeful yet cautious greetings before turning their attention to the sketches and notes that now plastered the large table. "It's coming together," Alex remarked, eyes glimmering with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "Yeah, but we need to talk about what this place truly means to us," Tom replied, needing to anchor the conversation. "This can't just be a project. It has to be personal." Their discussions deepened as they began to flesh out not just the design concepts, but the core vision and mission behind their venture. They uncovered emotions tied to memories. Each idea shared embodied fragments of their relationship, some reflecting joy and playfulness, others invoking long-hidden grievances. Tom felt weight lift as they articulated feelings they had previously suppressed, inching toward healing even while remaining cautious. "I want this cafe to reflect our journey," Tom shared, grasping for clarity. "It can be a place of understanding, where families connect and heal, just as we are trying to do." Alex paused, absorbing Tom's words before responding with silence that felt like both a wall and an opening. "Can we really make this work?" he finally queried, doubt lined sharply in his voice. Tom was reminded of Maria's words. The real connection was through listening. "It might be messy," Tom admitted, "but I believe we have to confront those messy feelings together. It's part of building trust again, and it can start here." As they spoke more openly, articulating fears and desires, Tom could see Alex absorbing the honesty. His son was both trepidatious and longing for resolution. "You didn't just leave. You weren't present," Alex said, cautiously. It felt like I was in a shadow of your expectations." The words hit Tom like a revelation. "I didn't realize, in my chase for success, I was failing at being your father. I thought I was providing, but really, I was absent. I'm sorry." Offering that was reflective of his transformation from a man tethered to his professional life to a father ready to embrace vulnerability. As the conversation unfolded, they moved beyond just aspirations for the cafe. They directly confronted the emotions rooted in their shared experiences. There were moments of silence, punctuated by deep breaths, as Alex revealed not just his frustrations, but also his hopes for the future. Tom, in turn, expressed his commitment, emphasizing that he would not only be Alex's father, but a partner in this endeavor to reconstruct their relationship. The cafe evolved from a mere idea into a shared manifestation of their desire to connect. It was symbolic. Each meeting carved another brick in the foundation of trust they were rebuilding. As plans progressed, word began to spread in the community, and support came from unexpected corners. People wanted to be a part of the space Tom and Alex were creating. It brought excitement and validation that balanced the remnants of Tom's fear of judgment and failure. One afternoon, while they were setting up an open house event, Tom noticed the familiar glow in Alex's eyes, something he had longed to see. This was not just about the cafe. It was the budding acknowledgement of a father-son partnership. Alex turned to Tom, a smile breaking through the haziness of earlier discussions. "We're doing it, right?" Tom nodded, his own smile unwavering. "We are, and I'm proud of you." In that moment, a profound realization settled within Tom. He had not only achieved something tangible by deciding to invest in his relationship with Alex, but he had also conquered old battles that had shrouded their connection. He could see the fruits of vulnerability through renewed trust, all stemming from his decision to bridge the gap. They had transformed a dream into reality and, more importantly, redefined what it meant to be a family, a journey punctuated by sincere conversations, shared aspirations, and mutual understanding. The cafe officially opened to the public, filled with laughter and warmth. It emanated an undeniable energy, echoing the path Tom and Alex traveled to arrive at this moment. No longer was Tom just an architect. He had achieved personal awakening and earned a sense of fulfillment that rooted deep within him, firmly planting him as a father, a guide in his son's life. As they stood side by side, immersed in the jubilant atmosphere, Tom reflected on the journey. They had faced their shadows. The ongoing exploration of their bond brought richness that was more valuable than material success alone. They had not only built a cafe, they had reconnected, crafted harmony through acknowledgement, and learned to embrace the beauty of their collective struggle. Fulfillment dawned as they stepped forward together, ready to navigate the path ahead, both proud and eager for whatever awaited them next. Now more than ever, the call for connection resonated deeply. If personal growth had a voice, it beckoned for engagement and vulnerability, and both Tom and Alex were ready to answer it. If you relate to personal growth and transformation, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like to feed the algorithm. Every action counts. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative conclusion.